HOA illegally tows my company car from my private garage with updates. Check out this video in podcast form by searching Austin Stories wherever you listen, or check the video description for a link. Okay, so back in May, I was in a car accident in my company car. It got totaled by my insurance. I choose to keep it because it was still drivable, and I had just had a lot of work done to it, like a new wrap, motor, and trans were just rebuilt 18 months ago. That forced me to file for a salvage title and return to my registration. So I parked it in my private garage that doesn't have a garage door. It sat without any notice or complaint for 5 months. I removed the trunk lid to get some custom wiring done on the inside of it, and the very next day, it was gone out of my garage. I called the cops. They checked to see if it was towed, and they don't have it on the list of towed cars. So we start filling out the stolen vehicle report, and halfway through, I get a call from the HOA telling me that they towed the car. So I cancel the report and ask dispatch to send police to the tow yard. I head over to the tow yard as well. When I arrive, the manager is standing right in the front area. I tell him, "You stole my car and I want it returned. Cops are on the way." His response is, "I didn't steal crap of your property. The manager had me tow it." I ask if it was my management or landlord or the HOA management who authorized it. He ignored me and went in office a few minutes later, and he returns with a body cam, a taser, and a gun. I at this time walked into the open tow yard to try to see if I could see my car, and I can't locate it. I hear, "Get the heck out of the yard or I'll tase you." I turn to see Mr. Wannabe Cop and Tow Manager walking up to me. I freeze up and start shutting down due to my autism. I just don't move or say anything. I'm able to center myself enough to start walking as he starts to push me. Mind you, I'm 6 foot 300 pounds. He's maybe 175 pounds soaking wet and 6 inches shorter than me. I'm about to turn to grab him as I see cops pulling up. So I just calmly walk towards the cops, ignoring the guy as I walk out the gate. The cops tell me it's a civil matter and that I have to take him to court. They can't do anything. So I leave and head to the court to file the paperwork. Ends up taking a month to get the papers filed because I had to send a demand letter and so on before I could file. I also contact the HOA management company and inform them of the fact that the tow company business license is revoked. Also of the many violations they committed by having the car towed. In turn, the 22-year-old idiot that's in charge of our property tells me that if I file a lawsuit, him and his buddies will make me regret that choice. I file a TPO that day and have it served on him as well. I get all that done, and then the HOA VP reaches out to me on Facebook asking me to attend the HOA meeting. I inform him in the chat logs that HOA manager has TPO, he's not to be there. So I plan to be at the meeting the next day with all my documentation, and I'll work out a solution that's fair to everyone. I show up to the meeting with several owners who were on my side and witnesses to the towing without notice, the revoked towing company license, and so on. I see TPO guy immediately and inform him that he needs to leave, that he's in violation. That is when the HOA VP tells me that he has cops on the way to trespass me from the clubhouse because I'm not an owner. I leave without incident or yelling. We go to court 3 days later and beat him in court. FHOA. Our HOA is so shady that they had my car towed without notice from my private garage and tried to justify it by blaming the county codes for the reason. This was in September. I filed a lawsuit because they refused to speak to me about it. I went to court suing both the HOA and the tow company because in our CC&Rs about parking, it states specifically that the penalty for any violation is a $100 fine, which is the max allowed by the law. They also tried to take a picture of a violation notice on my car, but forgot to delete the metadata from the photo. The data showed up with a date taken 1 day after it was towed. When the judge looked at that metadata info, and when the HOA told the judge, they don't own our roads, they're county property. The judge immediately stopped the case and said that she heard enough. The HOA is not allowed to tow cars in the neighborhood anymore, period. She ordered the HOA to pay the $2,400+ tow bill and told me to file a small claims action to get paid for loss of use. When we walked out of that courtroom, the tow company driver said, "We will leave your car out on the street in front of the tow yard." I told them, "Tow it back to my house." He said no. I turned back to the judge and asked, "Could you please have them return the car to where they towed it from?" The judge stands up from her chair and said, "If he wants you to tow it to New York, you'll do it and you'll charge the HOA whatever the cost. You're lucky you're not going to jail for auto theft." The HOA manager started to speak and was immediately interrupted by the judge. Bailiff, arrest him. Oh, the sweet taste of justice. Going to court next week for the small claims hearing on the loss of use and damage done to my car while it was at the tow yard. The update: they filed an appeal of this ruling, and we are waiting to go back in front of the district judge, so the small claims action is held until the ruling is made. You gotta stand up for yourself in front of the HOA and tow companies like this, or else they'll take advantage of you if you're not careful. What would have you done? How would you handle this corrupt and terrible HOA? Board member rant. Yes, I do sit on an HOA board, but hear me out. I joined the board because I sat on the social committee and our chairperson wanted to move on, and we didn't want the social committee to end because of that. Since then, it's been nothing but heck dealing with these people. Where it started, there were several vacancies on the board due to some community members complaining that the previous board just wasn't being transparent and they were taking votes outside of the monthly board meeting and holding secret meetings. Two of those people who were the most vocal about the lack of transparency were elected to the board, along with me and two other people. It's a 7-person board. Almost immediately, 2 people wanted to take votes and get rid of our management company and all of this other stuff in a special meeting outside of the monthly meeting before we even were officially seated on the board. The gentleman of the 2 at one meeting actually stood up and demanded a vote to fire the management company in 30 days. This gentleman was previously on the board, but quit after the previous board fired a management company. He lobbied to get hired because they were very bad. So I think his agenda was to get that company back on. Anyway, I called him out on the BS. How can you be taking votes outside of the meeting after complaining about that very thing? Of course, that made me an immediate outcast and put a target on me and the social committee's back. At the first meeting, what they did tell me was that I didn't have an approved budget. I let them know that the budget was approved prior to 2023 by the previous board. I was told that it didn't matter, this board didn't approve it. Prior to me being in the board, we had a Valentine's Day party at the neighborhood bar, and I was accused of giving people alcohol and said that the whole event put the HOA at risk. This was prior to me becoming a board member. However, the previous social chair said that they talked to the lawyers and the insurance, and because we were not providing alcohol, we were fine. This fell on deaf ears, and it still gets brought up every meeting since. At one meeting, they were so concerned that our social events were putting the HOA at risk that they didn't want the HOA's name on any of the flyers of the events that the HOA was sponsoring. At the last meeting, I got dinged because I wasn't putting the HOA name on any of the flyers. Next, we were having a Memorial Day pool event. The Wednesday before Memorial Day, they held a special meeting and started telling me that the event was illegal. One of the new members was a paralegal, and she has a lot of experience in law, so she knows. It didn't matter that this was like the second time that we've had this exact event, and we cleared them before with our legal and insurance company. After scrambling the whole next couple of days, the lawyer and the insurance company came back and said that we told the board that we had sufficient coverage. 2 members of the board came to the pool party and sat in the corner and just scowled. After they left, the fire department showed up checking capacity. Fire department come out on Memorial Day by just coincidence. I don't know, but it is shady. Also, at the special meeting, they voted to fire the management company and give them a 60-day notice. I became very frustrated at that point, and I voiced my concerns about these special meetings and making decisions outside the board meeting. I kid you not, but one board member said, "We are the HOA and we can actually do what we want. If needed, we can vote to change the bylaws to allow it." I was told that if I didn't like it, I could quit. I told him that yes, I will quit, but not until after the next board meeting so I can tell the neighborhood exactly what's going on in these special meetings and what this board thinks that they can do. I was completely upset at that point, and I walked out of the meeting saying that I wasn't going to be any part of this. Apparently, after I left, they made a motion to dismantle the social committee completely. At the next board meeting, they took a vote on that, and it didn't pass. But seriously, why wouldn't the HOA want to have a social committee? His family? So after that, 4 members quit. So there's only 3 of us left. And we already voted to fire the management company, so we have to do the business of finding a new management company with only 3. Needless to say, I did not volunteer to do any of that work. We did pick up 2 new members who took charge of that. After that, it was somewhat quiet. However, 2 of the members admitted to never reading the board packets and didn't show to meetings regarding hiring a new management company. And then, they just recently decided to take one of those board members that quit back onto the board. Now I am being asked for a full audit of all of my supplies. One board member asked me what have I done with the paper plates that I didn't use. Well, they're asking for a head count of all my past events. I didn't take head count because I didn't know we even needed to. I have also been accused of again not having a line-by-line budget. However, I've showed them the line-by-line budget several times, accused that I've not been transparent. However, I've turned in every receipt. The receipts are itemized, mind you. This is a $5,000 budget. I'm not going to get rich and live on some island for the rest of my days on that money. I am frustrated and defensive at this point. I've been accused of being just that, also starting fights, wanting drama. I just so want to quit the HOA, but the social committee and all the neighborhood events will also not happen, and no other person on the social committee wants to be on it. This sounds like a mess to deal with. It's a tough battle. You want to stay on to keep the committee alive, but staying on is a huge mental headache. What have you done? Entitled uncle wants to donate his part of the house, so my family is taking him to court. I'm a 17-year-old female living in a semi-small town in Bulgaria. Our family mostly consists of good and not argumentative people, except my uncle, 41 male. He's living in Berlin, Germany, and used to work as an opera singer. His biggest achievement is singing in La Scala. Our problems with him are not new. He's an alcoholic and the most entitled person that I know. Every time he comes back home, there are always scandals. I remember hiding under a table when I was 5 or 6 because I was scared of him. We didn't have much problems with him, but everything changed in 2020. He lives off of the country because he's unemployed. He says it's because of COVID, but the truth is that he got stopped in order to look after his boyfriend, 61 male. They got on bad terms with my mom, 45 female, because she wanted him to leave his boyfriend, who's only using him and has even called the police on him multiple times. I was still on good terms with him, and we talked weekly. However, one day, while talking about my favorite band, he just started screaming at me and calling them bad names. I got mad and I hung up on him. He was furious and started bombarding me with voice messages, calling me a bee, a prostitute, an addict, and so on. Mind you, I was 14 at the time. He also said that he will be coming to Bulgaria without notice and will beat me up until I learn my lesson. Later on, we got on good terms again because I'm a very forgiving person. A few months into it, I, again, broke things off with him because he started to send threats to my mom, wishing her cancer, calling her, my stepdad, an idiot and stuff. I told him that he's not mentally stable and that he needs to learn how to respect his family. We weren't talking for years after that. December 2023, he came back home for a month. He never apologized and demanded us to apologize for ruining his life. He told my mom that because of her and her bad karma, he has an alcohol addiction. He also told her that she has a child, me, because he let her use the house. 2 or 3 days into his visit, he became really violent and drank a lot, around 3 liters of beer and wine a day. He almost caused my grandpa, 75, a heart attack. His blood pressure was 200 over 140. That's a lot. Around 10 days later, he got an early ticket back to Berlin, using my GPS money because he's broke as heck. And now he wants to donate his part of our house, 1/3, in order to take revenge on us. I made my mom call a lawyer, and now we will be proceeding with taking his part of the house. Super entitled here. There's no way around it. So you gotta stand up to family members like this. There's just no way around it. What would you do if you had a family like this? Entitled brother thinks I should buy a house and pay the bills to take care of him and his abusive mother. Until 2 years ago, I had a perfect 800 credit score. I never missed a payment. I lost my job for reporting my bosses for overlooking SA. So for 2 years, I've struggled finding work because as I found out a few months ago, the people I was reporting on were slandering me to potential employers, costing me a job using my MBA making $20 an hour in an office. My credit score is crap and I'm coasting on fumes. The worst part of this, my family doesn't know and is running around telling everyone that I refuse to help them keep a roof over their head. I'm near the point of being unable to buy food, and these jackwagons are telling people that I should buy them a place to live. The reason? My grandmother died of what I suspect was COVID. I worked with the public and caught it despite being vaxxed multiple times. So I wasn't going to be around a 60-plus-year-old woman with severe emphysema and risk getting her COVID. She was angry, but then she never really liked me, just needed me. He and my mother in her final days wormed her way into the house, thinking that they would in fact gain ownership of it if she died. Every time I ask what she died of, they just say that she was in the hospital and decided to just give up. Well, she's dead and they're facing a ticking clock because the house is being inherited in a 6-way split. This doesn't bother me because I was told years ago that I was getting nothing from her estate. I was told that the house would go into a trust and both my brothers and mother would be living there. My brother, who has spent his life bouncing from one multimillionaire relative's couch and wallet to another, thinks that I should buy a house for him and my deranged mother a place to live. The man who was given a house to live in when he finally decided to leave home at 25 thinks the man who was thrown out the week after graduation and lived in low-income housing at 17, too sick to take care of himself, should buy him a house. This isn't the first time he's said stuff like this, and it's surely not going to be the last, but it just infuriates me how twisted these people's logic is. I know this isn't the last time because I asked him several years ago what he will do when Grandma's dead. His rich uncle, who's cancer in remission, loses his cancer battle, and our mother is incapable of taking care of herself. It's all he has. His reply, I crap you not, was, well, I'll come live with you because you have to take care of me. We're family. When it's me, family means no help and self-sufficiency. When it's them, it means mandatory help and mandatory handouts. Am I wrong to be angry about them and their behaviors? I swear, having to deal with all these people who they've told lies and half-truths, coming up to me and shaming me before I correct them, makes me want to give up and just stop going out. These people are way entitled. You gotta step your foot down sometimes. I wonder if they're taking advantage right here. What do you think? HOA declares my new house is in the HOA, but no, it's not in the HOA. Click the video on your screen so you find out what happens to the house, and I'll see you there.